with Lindsay from BadgePass. For those of you in the live, welcome. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We'll love to get to those at the end of the presentation. And for those of you listening to it in the future, welcome to our new podcast. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. And so thank you, Lindsay, for joining us. And why don't you give us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you do?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I was just telling you, this is my first live stream. So I guess I've done a lot of podcasts now, but nothing live before. So excited to figure it out with you. But yes, I'm Lindsay Martinez. I'm the CEO of BadgePass. I started in the security industry a little over 15 years ago. And I actually moved to Mississippi from Buffalo, New York when I came to work for BadgePass. So I've spent my whole career at BadgePass. I started in channel sales, meaning I really was focused on helping our channel partners learn our software products and have success with it in their respective areas. And then I kind of just grew up with the company. So as the company grew, I was afforded the opportunity to do the same and moved up and eventually took over as CEO 2 years ago. So that's my story.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh in the chat said, "Sweet studio, Lindsay." I said the same thing. He said, "Is that new?" Because he interviewed you as well.
Yes, he did. So I used to do most of my interviews in my office, but we built this recording studio upstairs last year in our office, and we decided I was doing all of them in here this year. So
nice.
It's new.
Awesome. Cool. Let's keep a tally of how many times I say "awesome" in this live stream. So
that's okay. It's my favorite words too.
So we met briefly at GSX. You did the breakfast there. That was really cool. And I have to say, out of all the manufacturer or whatever dinners and events, that was probably my most favorite. One, I love breakfast. I love coffee. You had coffee ready to go.
Yeah.
And you had a cool panel discussion. And then goodie bags. I mean, who doesn't like a good goodie bag?
Who doesn't? Oh.
So, yeah, that was really fun. And I'm glad I got to meet you. And I got your book. That was cool. It was really cool that you wrote one. You want to talk a little bit about your book?
Yeah, sure. So last year I wrote a book called Badge Passion, and it's kind of obviously a play on Badge Pass, but we call our core values here our Badge Passions. And I am just pretty passionate about what we do. And so it's kind of a behind the scenes look at Badge Pass and me. And I think that if you read it, it kind of gives you a feel for what we're like to work with and what I'm like. I like to believe that we're very transparent. We're kind of what you see is what you get. But for people who are thinking, like, do I really want to work with these people or do I want to partner up with them? I think it gives us kind of a behind the scenes look of what we're actually like to deal with. I like to think we're pretty fun.
I would say you are a pretty fun group. Your Hawaiian shirts and your colors were all cool at the event, the GSX event. So yeah, it looked like a fun place to work, and you look like an awesome person to work for. So yeah, I would agree with that. Speaking of events,
some of the fun shirts we've got planned for 2025.
Yeah. Nice. Speaking of events, you got a couple of those coming up. One of them is in Nashville called Badge Up. You want to talk a little bit about that and why people should want to go to that?
Yeah, so Badge Up is it's a partner event. So it's designed for all of our channel partners, anyone who resells our product. And we invite everybody to come to this. This is the first year we've really done like sales and technical combined. So we've had sales events before. We used to do this really cool thing called the Tech Retreat. And I think this is kind of unique in the industry. We would invite service techs from each of our partner companies to attend really a retreat with our product developers, our lead support technicians, anyone that they interacted with from a support standpoint. And we'd give them a behind the scenes look at like what's coming with the product. We'd let them give us feature requests and feedback into how we could be a better partner to them. And like no one invites techs to anything. They never go to anything cool. The salespeople always get to. And so we did that for 10 years, and we did some like really badass events. We went to Cancun several times. We took them on a couple cruises. We also did some like redneck stuff in Mississippi, and there was a fishing trip in Louisiana. So it was a really cool event. And so we kind of took some of the nostalgia from that, and we have a little bit of a technical thing on the front end, and then a combined day with sales and technical people, and then our sales people on the back end. But I'm really passionate about our channel partner community and like giving back to them and like getting good feedback from them and growing those relationships. And so Badge Up is our first event where we're doing it kind of all combined, but I'm excited to see all of our channel partners. It's next week. It's a little over a week away, so it's coming up quick. And of course, in true BadgePass fashion, we will make sure it is a lot of fun.
Nice. Awesome. Well, add that to the tally. I said awesome again. That's really cool. I think that's awesome that you, oh gosh, I am really digging in the awesome. That's my go-to word, I guess. But that you invited service techs, that's really cool. See, I switched that up from awesome. And then you have another one coming up in conjunction with the ISC event called Birdies with BadgePass.
Yep. So what we try to do is, in like GSX, we didn't have a booth. We don't have a booth at ISC West, and there's a couple of reasons for that, which we can dig into or not. But honestly, we used to about 14 years ago, 12 years ago, back early in my career, we had a booth at ISC West for a couple of years. And we would leave, and I'm like, we're spending all this money. What if we took the money we spend here and invested it back in our channel partners instead, like our existing partners? And so we came up with the concept for the tech retreat and also our incentive trip for our partners based on that. And so we started offering our partners a way to earn an all-inclusive trip to awesome resort every year instead. So we spent that money and invested in our own channel partners, but we still go. And I still think it's important that we be at those events. But I'd like to do something more fun than have a booth. So you were at the breakfast at GSX, and I think that was a good opportunity to kind of get to know us and meet some people. But at ISC West, we're hosting a golf tournament the day before the exhibit hall opens. And it's called Birdies with BadgePass. And of course, there will be a prize for the best dressed team, which means the most fun polos because it's important.
Or Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, whatever crazy shirt you want to pull out. But it's going to be a fun opportunity for people to, other manufacturers to bring some of their customers and partners, or our partners to come and play golf and do something fun before the exhibit hall opens. That's April 1st, and there's still foursomes available. So if anyone's interested.
I am horrible at golf, so I will pass on that one. But it sounds like a great time. My first experience with BadgePass was actually at ISC West last year. I was part of the Leo Des access control brief quest.
You weren't just part of it; you won it, didn't you?
I actually won that one. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, let's not downplay that you were part of it.
I try to, I don't want to be braggy, but yeah, I won the grand prize for that one. It was pretty significant. So yeah, that was really fun, and I got to meet your team you guys had a suite in the Venetian, so that was really a great idea. You don't have to Josh in the chat, $750,000 for a booth or however much that costs. Yeah. It looks like Charles in the chat.
I think we're just trying to do things a little bit differently, and try to
that's good.
A different voice and somebody a little bit different in the industry. So stuff like that is more authentic to who we are than a booth on the show floor anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, we got Charles Johnson in the chat. He said he's going to be partnering with John Polly to attempt to play golf with you guys, so that's cool.
I like it.
Awesome.
I think that's great. I see Eric in there too, and I don't feel like Eric has committed to a foursome, but he has verbally told me that he would play golf, and so I'm going to have to give him a hard time.
You better get in there. All right, so on to the next topic of discussion. I know you get this question all the time, and this is probably your bread and butter, but what do you think about the future of physical badge versus, everybody's going towards mobile credential, and give your take on why you think physical badge is here to stay.
No one's ever asked me this before. I'm just kidding. No, I get asked this all the time. It's my favorite thing to talk about, so I am happy to discuss it. So for me, I think that physical badges get a bad rap, and that is really just in the security industry, in the access control space, and it's mostly, in my opinion, because it's kind of been an afterthought. And so people kind of throw it in as like a necessary evil, like I need this card to do something else. And so there's this perception that a card is just a utility, like a means to an end. And for me, the badge is so much more significant than that. And so we're really promoting a lot of messaging around the plus on top of the utility. Like it's more than just a card. And there's so much research and evidence behind the importance of like recognizing people that you work with and forming connections with the people that you work with, or calling people by their name. And there's tons of science behind, if I'm your coworker and I walk up to you and I say your name, or I just say, hey, well, how are you? How much of a deeper connection we form if I use your name? And like, what's the easiest way to use somebody's name every day? Put it on a badge in big font, so you can easily see it. And it's super important, especially in like K through 12 market, which I'm really passionate about. That students feel a sense of community and connection to their school, and that they have like a trusted adult that they trust in the building too. And so by giving teachers the means to see everybody's name and recognize them by name and kind of instilling that in your culture, you ultimately can improve safety and security. And it sounds so silly because this isn't even like a costly thing that you could do. And like, how are you going to do that with a mobile credential? Like, you're not. That kind of like psychological well-being and benefit to it, that's irreplaceable. You can't do that with a mobile credential. Now, my opinions on mobile credentials, like I think that there's a place for them. So I'm not here to say, hey, physical badges are the end-all be-all and no one should ever adopt mobile. That would be stupid. I think that they should just play together and complement one another, kind of coexist, if you will, rather than this, it has to be one or the other mentality that seems to be kind of overtaking the conversation, at least in the security industry. Yeah,
definitely. I work a lot with data centers and healthcare, and those are very high security areas, especially healthcare. In my experience, badges are very important. You got a lot of vendors and a lot of people just roaming around that you need to differentiate from a patient. And so having that physical badge gives other employees or security the instant ease of, okay, they're supposed to be here. I know a lot of the hospitals I worked with, they had a badge color for a doctor. So only doctors can be in, the red area, right? Or if you had a yellow badge, you're a vendor, you shouldn't be roaming around in the doctor area, right? So just having that visual is really important to me.
And it's not even that. Like, there's every time hospitals conduct patient surveys, they'll ask them about like their experience and everything. And a lot of times patients will say the number one thing that made them feel good about like whoever was coming and taking care of them, or that they were safe and secure, is the badge. Like, that's even more important than the uniforms that the nurses wear. It helps them feel like a personal connection to whoever's coming in their room. So there's tons of patient feedback that badges are important to them and like make the patient experience better too. So even outside of the coworker environment, it's really great for patients. So you got to think about like the trickle down impact of that badge.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. I would also like to remind everybody in the chat. The chat's going pretty good. I love it. If you have any questions for Lindsay, please post them and we'll make sure to get them into the lineup here. So if you have a question, just type it in the chat. So physical badge is here to stay. I would agree with that. And like you said, there is space for both to have mobile credential and physical badge. Maybe the badge just doesn't have that RFID chip in it anymore, or whatever it had, the smart card. You just have a piece of plastic that you wear. I think that's very important. Is there any cool technologies with badges that maybe the normal person wouldn't know about? And like you said,
it just depends on how what we consider a normal person. Like, I like to consider myself normal, and I know a lot of really nerdy things about card technologies, like printing technologies, which is kind of what I think we're talking about. So the card technology aside, there's so many cool things you can do from a personalization perspective with cards. before cards ever even leave the manufacturer, like anyone's ever been to HID, for example, and seen like how they create cards. They do custom cards for a lot of like your big companies, big names out there, and they do some badass like embedded holograms in the cards and stuff that you would never even see necessarily with the naked eye. Like you have to be really close, or UV stuff in the card itself. And so you can do that at the manufacturer level. Your small government agency in rural Mississippi is probably not going to be able to afford that, but bigger corporations can. But then printing itself, you can still accomplish really cool stuff. I mean, there's printers out there that can do micro text that's like too small to see with the naked eye. It just looks like a line. But if you have a magnifying glass, you know, like kind of, there's driver's licenses that have this technology. Holographic laminates are one of my favorite ways to add security and make your card a little bit sexier. So those can be custom, those can be standard, but they not only add durability to your card, but they look really cool depending on the hologram. I also am a huge fan. One of our printer manufacturer partners does this tactile impression, and it basically like imprints in the card. So you got to be cognizant of how deep it goes, because we've done it with technology cards, and if you go too deep, you can damage the embedded technology inside the card. But it leaves basically an imprint. It can be customized with your logo. It's so cool. Like it's tactile. You feel it. You can see it. It's like really insane. So if you've never seen that and you're interested in seeing it, that's one of my favorite like cool features you can add to your
That's
card.
great. Cool.
See, cards are sexy.
Yeah, that's cool. We do have a card-related question from Keith. He's a good friend back in the day. He actually works at Rady Children's in Southern California. His question is, what is the best card format in your opinion?
All right, so like that's not a real cut and dry question.
Yeah, that's a pretty broad question.
I'll give you the easiest answer, which is it depends. So to me, the best card format is whatever the best solution is based on what the customer needs. And so it's interesting. I just had a guest from HID on my podcast earlier this week. We were recording for season 2, and I said, y'all at HID like must have a difficult time walking this line of card formats and card technologies, because you sell a lot of props, and like everybody knows that props isn't that secure. But at the end of the day, like if you've explained the benefits of a more secure card format, a more secure card technology to your customer, and then they still want to go with procs, like, is that not their decision? Maybe it's a pricing thing. Maybe it's the existing infrastructure that they have that can support it. And maybe that's the best thing for them at this time. And it's going to be 2 to 3 years before they can move. But I think sometimes we get so wrapped around, like, it's got to be super secure and we have to have the most secure card on the market. Like, sure, but not everybody can afford that. And not everybody's that worried about it, because the card and the access control system isn't usually the only security element that's in place at a facility. And so, like, if it's an interior door and it's not that many people, I mean, at the end of the day, like, what's the real risk? And if it's not super extensive risk, then sometimes customers are comfortable taking that risk and going with a lower, security card format. So the easy answer, and I don't know, you could say this is a cop-out, is it depends on what the customer needs are.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely. Hopefully that answers your question, Keith. Any cool stories regarding some card technologies that you've worked with in the past? I know that's kind of a broad question too, but I'm just curious. Do you have any cool stories?
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know what's a cool story about card formats. I will say this, that a lot of times we do work with customers on, finding the right card format or building a custom card format or custom encryption key or something like that if they do want to go with a more secure card. We have had a lot of success in helping customers implement multi-technology cards. And so, like, a lot of times people think about it at the reader level. Like, I need to go with a multi-tech reader to make the migration in my card. But sometimes it's actually easier to implement a multi-tech card as a transition point. So if you say, hey, I'm going to make the migration to this more secure card, and everybody's on procs right now. Well, if you have thousands, tens of thousands of employees or something like that may not be realistic. Maybe it's easier to rebadge everybody with a, procs and smart card of some kind. So like we worked with the university that did CS and procs. And that way they could eventually move over all their readers to support that and then fill the procs on the card. And so I think in door access world, a lot of times everybody's approaching it reader first. And how do I support them move to a different technology? Well, like think about it backwards sometimes. It might actually be just as easy, if not easier, to do a multi-tech card. And then you can slowly migrate out the readers. So
yeah, I've been a part of a few of those projects where we did reader changeouts, but we did it on the card side versus the reader side. So, as things phased out and finally get to that last procs reader that got changed out, they just cut the procs off. Yeah, that's great. We do have another question from Charles. Lindsay, help us understand your tech support structure for your end users. Do you offer direct support where they can call into your tech support line? What, if any, restrictions do you have? Okay, let me rephrase that question. What if any restrictions do you have? Do they need to be trained in your GUI before they call in? Do you charge for that level of direct support? A few questions in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions, Charles. So we do have end users that call in for support. What's interesting about us is we actually got our start as a systems integrator, and not everybody knows that. So before we ever wrote our own products, we sold other ID products, other access control products, really just in Mississippi, but then that kind of expanded to several other states just based on some acquisitions that we had done. And so because of that, we have a large footprint of direct customers and still areas where we don't have channel partners that we sell through. We sell direct, especially like here in Mississippi, where we're headquartered. So we have a lot of direct customers that call us, but then there's also direct customers that are customers of our partners that do sometimes call. And we try to be as cognizant of that relationship as possible, because nothing's worse than like your customer trying to bypass you if you're the integrator partner and go to the manufacturer, especially if like they owe you money or something. Right. And so that's why they're trying to bypass you. So we really try to walk that line carefully and not tell customers that we can't support them. I mean, at the end of the day, it's our product. So like if they have a basic question, it feels a little unfair to be like, oh, well, you have to call your partner. I'd rather them have a positive experience with the product, but I don't have like a real cut and dry if this, then that. Most of the time we try to reroute them back to their partner if they articulate that there's some type of problem with their partner or some reason. Otherwise, then we'll usually help handle it and go back to the partner after the fact. But we don't charge anything for our support. We do have something really cool for our partners where we have a separate phone line. So we have a VIP line for just our channel partners. So when they call in for support, they are guaranteed to get our top tier support people. And they're guaranteed to not be in the same queue as end user customers. So I think that there's nothing worse than calling in for support and getting told like, oh, someone will call you back when you log a support case. Like, I'd rather just get someone to help me on the phone. But then I also don't want like the person who started a week ago and doesn't know anything and can't really answer my questions and just tells me to restart my system. So we put our top team on that to support our partners, because when a partner calls for support, like they've been trained, they need good support is my position on that.
Perfect. Yep. Charles looks like he likes that answer. He says, wow, that you don't charge. Love the VIP line. Great idea. Perfect. Another question from Keith. I'm assuming he's asking for like an on-site kind of deal. What's the best way to mass print cards?
So I guess there's a couple ways you could take that. Sometimes the customer will need to do a large rebadge, which is probably what he's alluding to. So I'll give you a good example. We worked with a large healthcare system who had to do about 60,000 cards. So rebrand, they had to get all new employee photos in. They had to mass produce all these, and at the same time they were moving to a new card technology. 60,000 cards to reprint on site would take some time with just a desktop card printer. They're fast, but they're not like lightning speed. So instead, we worked with HID and we printed those at the manufacturer level, and they have the ability to do service bureau type work for big projects like that, where they do actually personalize with the personal information, not just like the printing on the card too. And the customer was willing to pay for that because they wanted to offload the work. And we have multiple partners that we actually work with, and sometimes we do that for customers where we help do service bureau type work. And our product's actually written, our cloud badging application is actually written where customers can send print jobs to their partner, basically to a different printer that isn't on site, if that's an option that they want to do. So they could either do that for a large project, or they could do it all the time. Maybe they don't want a printer on site. They just want badges that work. So I think that you've got flexibility depending on what the scenario is. If it's a ton of cards, or if I just don't want to do it myself, you can offload that to someone else, and a company like us can help with that. Or I have other people who have like a lot of printers. And so if they're going to do a large rebadge, or we work with like medical marijuana authority in one state, and they print all their licenses, and I think they have like 12 desktop card printers on site, and they'll just, mass produce them that way.
Wow. That's crazy. But yeah, well, I would assume, Keith, you would want something more along the lines of getting the HID involved and just doing a mass print that way. We got another question from Charles. Oh, no question. No question for Lindsay, but just sharing. At least Merck Tech last week in Fort Lauderdale, there was a very enthusiastic conversation around procs and the fact that the consultants pressed Mercury and HID to stop supporting and selling procs due to it being unsafe. So that was just his observation from Merck Tech.
I actually heard about that, but I think that people have been pushing HID for a while to say, like, we'll just stop selling it. And if you wanted procs to go away, you would just stop selling it. But so HID, they sell a lot of procs. And then if they stop selling it, there's plenty of other card manufacturers that you can buy procs from. Then those people are just going to be like, sweet, now we'll just pick up all the procs that HID wasn't getting. And so, we all keep shooting ourselves in the foot on this. And the price point on procs is like aggressively low sometimes. We get it from some of our card partners at like a ridiculously awesome price point. And so then if you're the customer, it's like, I don't know. And I get it. It's not that secure, but what are you going to do?
Are there any avenues where you think procs is sufficient? Like for
Sure. I think that, as long as the customer knows the risk and they're willing to take it, there's plenty of people out there that don't even have access to electronic door locks and are still using keys. And we all know I can go do the key and have no audit trail of who came in the door. So there's plenty of scenarios like that. There's customers who use barcodes and potentially use those to access and open doors, or use that to sign into stuff, or print and copy. And oh my God, Lord knows there's universities that still use magstripe for some stuff.
Those cat cards.
Yeah, when you're using magstripe technology and then procs, I think that I don't think it's going anywhere, and I think that there's use cases where people are still probably going to use it, at least for a while. You'd have to really kill it. You'd have to get rid of it to get rid of it altogether.
Yeah, that's a good conversation. Is it here to stay, or is there a way to get rid of it at some point? But if people keep buying, then people will keep selling it. So. And if
card manufacturers keep lowering the price on proc, then it's incentivizing people.
Well, you peer pressured Eric, it looks like, into signing up for Birdies with BadgePass, so he got the registration in there.
Peer pressure some people. I like it. It's because he's coming to Badge Up, and he knew that if I saw him in Nashville, I would give him a really hard time.
Yep. So Charles also mentioned there was even a suggestion on getting an end user to sign a EULA to remove the liability off the PAX and integrator and consultant. That's not a bad idea. If they want to really still go with procs and be like, all right, here, sign this. We're washing our hands.
And that's actually not a terrible idea, because I guess that it depends on the types of customers and clients that you're working with. If you're worried about liability of the card all the time, and I can see that from a consultant perspective. A consultant probably wouldn't advise you to go with procs. So I don't hate that that you sign something saying like, hey, I know I bought this. I know it's not that secure, but tell me.
Yeah. You had mentioned earlier, and I also, perused your website a little bit. You guys don't just do badges, correct? You guys provide a form of access control and visitor management. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So we really have two different product lines. So Enterprise is our on-prem solution. That's the one that I sold day one when I came to work here. It's been here longer. And that's kind of a more traditional product. And so we've got thousands of customers that use that product still. And it's photo ID, visitor management, and door access control, all combined into one platform. And we've had lots of success with that product over the years. It's a Mercury-based access control product from Mercury OEM. However, when we built our cloud product, BadgePass 1, we really took a badge-first approach. And that's really a badging platform. And it has evolved into what I'm pretty confident is the best badging platform on the market. And that's kind of where our emphasis is as an organization. So this isn't to say that Enterprise is going away or that we're never going to support it. We're going to continue to improve upon that product. But when it comes to the cloud, we're really focused on badging and then putting a lot of the logic and technology in some like privilege management, like a visitor tracking is what I would consider kind of like a privilege or tracking, like people in and out. We'll build that logic and functionality into our BadgePass 1 cloud product as well, because I think there's a lot of advantages to having a solution that produces a credential and then does some stuff in there as well. It's my goal for that product to be integrated with a lot of the access control manufacturers that are on the market, where we can kind of be the badging platform, and they can do access control the best.
Yeah. Do you have any manufacturers that you currently integrate with as far as your visitor management goes?
Yeah, there's different ways people say that they integrate. And so what we did is we built like a very robust data import, data export functionality where based on any type of trigger in the system, we can send cardholder data, events, whatever, to any third-party system out there. Like you literally just have to be able to suck up a file from somewhere. Now we have more advanced APIs where you can do a direct connection, but I would say 99% of the customers that have implemented our solutions integrated do it via our event system and our data connector tool. And that accomplishes getting data in from anybody and getting data out to anybody that needs it. We have that in both our on-prem product, and we've got some advancements coming in that in our cloud product next month that will accomplish the same thing. So people always are like, oh, we're integrated with this, we're integrated with this. Like, I'd rather build something that's a little bit more versatile, where I can say, like, yeah, as long as they can take a file import, or as long as they can watch for, event notifications that are occurring, and then do something on their end, then we can integrate with anybody.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we have run out of questions on our agenda, and nobody's asking more questions in the chat. However,
this is because I talk really fast. It's because I'm from New York.
You're going through them quick. I was just kind of curious.
Time period, yeah.
Yeah, I was curious. You guys are pretty active on LinkedIn. That's, I see you guys posting a lot. You guys had that marketing campaign with Snoop on a Stoop. That was pretty fun. What kind of are you involved with that marketing? I see you also have a marketing person hired, but are you kind of, both of you brainstorm on what to do, or I'm just curious on how that process works on your end?
Yeah, so marketing is really special to me because that's where I lived most of my career. So I ran sales and marketing here. And so some CEOs are like more on the finance side. I'm more on the sales and marketing side. And so I would say that I'm very passionate about marketing and our brand and making sure that it keeps the tone and vibe that I want us to portray as a company. So yes, I'm very involved in it. And we have a great team. I've got a graphic designer that's been with me. This is my first hire when I came here. Literally, I hired him as an intern. So he's been with us 15 years. Which means that when I draw stick figures, which is how I illustrate marketing ideas, he understands how to translate that into something that doesn't look like a stick figure, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, we have a really good marketing team, and they do a great job of, hearing me walk down the hall and say some crazy idea about like, hey, what if we did this, and turning that into something real. So I'm very fortunate to have them. But I love marketing, and I like to try to do things that are like a little bit more casual and fun. and maybe less stuffy than a lot of the industry. I hate to say that, but I think that the security industry is a little like cool stuffy sometimes when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, you definitely bring a different taste to the LinkedIn feed because it's refreshing to see the different kind of posts, and you're not afraid to, have fun. It seems like a lot of these companies are so like, they use their AI generated images and just post it.
Yeah.
And that's no flavor to it whatsoever.
It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that sometimes things are so polished, and I don't know that that's even what people want. Like, I think people want stuff that's real and a little bit more authentic. And so, I mean, like, even the stuff that you're doing and posting here is more fun to me. And, I mean, is access control, security, like that fun? Yeah, it can be. Like, let's at least try to make it fun. Let's not make it boring, like the same stock images of people opening a door. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, that's definitely what Deadbolt Society is trying to go for, is a little bit fresher take, maybe a little bit more, geared towards the younger generation. I would, people have put that title on that, but I like doing the marketing too and making the Vinny Peony. He
His
posted
stuff's
about all the stuff he's put on Canva. I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'm on Canva every day making little posts, little pictures here and there. Canva's great. Why don't you talk a little bit also about your podcast? What's it called? And you got a season 2 coming up.
It's so funny because when we started it last year, I said to the team, I just want to give voice to the badge. Like, I was so freaking tired of hearing everybody talk about mobile credentials nonstop and like how they were the greatest things since sliced bread. And I was like, we need to give a voice back to the badge. Like, it's not gone and it's really valuable. So let's make that happen. And so I said, let's just do a video series. We didn't even call it a podcast because I didn't feel like it was one. I was like, we'll do a video series and we'll have guests on, manufacturers, partners, whatever, and they'll talk about stories of how Badge made a facility more secure or made something better or solved a problem for them. And that's how it started. And then, like, before I knew it, we did 24 episodes, and they went from being like 6 minutes long to some of them were like 20, 25 minutes long. And it luckily afforded me a lot of other opportunities to be a guest on other people's podcasts. And like HID invited me to a nice discussion with Phil about mobile credentials on their podcast. And so really that was the design. And so this season we're a little bit more intentional about it because it kind of just evolved in and of itself. We started, and if you look back on like the first video, it was garbage compared to now where we have a much nicer setup. And I mean, you kind of just grow up in it, but so season 2 is a little more intentional, and we've already started filming, and the first episode will come out the first week of March. And I'm excited about that, but it's called Badge Banter. And so technically, I guess it is a podcast. We do stream it on all your podcast services, so you can find it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, and it's on YouTube. And Lord knows we'll share them all on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you'll see I'm on LinkedIn. I know I'm subscribed to the Apple Podcast. I enjoy your episodes. They're good little 30-minute chunks, and it's perfect for a drive to the grocery store and back. And I enjoy them. And you always have good topics.
Nothing like listening to Lindsay on your way to the grocery store. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, I think that's all we got. I really appreciate you for being our first guest for Deadbolt Live. And
I was like, we're guinea pig.
Being willing. Yeah.
I was happy to do it. It was fun.
Technical difficulties and everything.
Hey, we got to figure it out. We know what we're doing now. And just think, like, it'll be just like Badge Banter. A year from now, you'll look back on it and you'll be like, remember the first one? And like, this is how far we've come. And so I'm just glad I got to do the first one with you. I think that's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll have a studio next year. And
that's what I'm saying. See?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's looking at my bedroom right now, but it's okay.
Hey, we got to start somewhere. That's what I always say.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, in the chat for watching us live. Thank you for everybody listening on the podcast in the future. And next week, we have Vinny Peony from Eastern Security Services. He's going to be talking about marketing for the security integrator and what he does on LinkedIn. He loves to post, and he has some great posts. So I'm excited to talk to Vinny. And then we also have next Friday, we have the Deadbolt Roundtable. And that's where we get some of the goofiest people you've ever seen. Myself, Josh Bowman, and Bear from Security Today podcast, and David Telpine from Vicon. And we all just, pick some topics to talk about, and we just hang out and talk. So feel free to join us on that live next Friday as well. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.